The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com.
Marcus, and welcome to another episode of Toilet Side Wrestling Talk. Today's guest hails from the great state of Texas and began wrestling in 2012. He was trained by Rudy Boy Gonzalez, Sho Funaki, and Taka Michinoku. He's worked for such promotions as Southwest Wrestling Entertainment, NWA, MLW, Heavy Metal Wrestling, Reality of Wrestling. He's worked 2 Impact matches, New Texas Pro Wrestling. He's worked AEW Dark 3 times and Dallas Championship Wrestling. He's the current DCW Texas Champion. He's also held the ROW Texas Championship, the Lions Pride Sport Championship, and the MEPW Heavyweight Championship. Along the way, he shared the rings with likes of Yuji Hino, Barrett Brown, Gary J., Keith Lee, The Blade, Ethan Page, Lance Archer, and I could go on. 2020, PWI put him on their top 500 list, and he came at number 494. So let's welcome today's guest, someone who rejects the notion that the Earth is actually triangle-shaped. I give you Moonshine Mantell. Best part of that is like the very ending when you go towards the ref. I laugh every single time I see it. Hey, how are you today?
Man, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fine, thank you. Been looking forward to having you on. Let me ask you a question: Is wrestling in Texas and or being a fan in Texas different than what you see in other parts of the country where you wrestle?
I think on the independent level, as far as being a talent down there, it's a little bit different just because Texas for the longest time has been that quote unquote black hole of the independents. And just over the last few years, that's when we're finally starting to get our just due. So, being a wrestler down there, you kind of go in, you kind of have like a chip on your shoulder, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just and I mean I'm not speaking for everyone, but for I know a lot of guys like myself have been down there, have kind of taken offense to the fact that it takes us so long to get noticed comparative to everyone else, Yeah. So now that Texas scene is on the rise, man. So now we're all out there doing our thing and starting to get finally noticed. But as a fan though, I would say it's a little bit different, man. I think the Texas style has always been that more brawling type of style, more kind of realistic, just ground and pound type of, style, man. So it's just a little bit different, I guess. Texas, I guess we're a little bit more about the brawling and that kind of stuff.
Got it. Yeah, I knew there must have been like some difference. So you live in Kansas City now. Can I ask you a question about Kansas City, or I guess Missouri? Is the barbecue? Is there any place that has bad barbecue food?
Not that I've experienced here, man. Every barbecue that I've had in Kansas City has been phenomenal. I actually live a few blocks away from Joe's Barbecue here in Kansas City, so I can't put that place over enough. And I'm a few blocks away from Q39 too, man. So I haven't had bad barbecue in Kansas City. It's really good. I put Texas barbecue and Kansas City barbecue. They're about neck to neck on the scale.
I was just going to ask you that. So, is it popular down there, or is it like, since we don't have like where I live, I have nothing as far as barbecue food. Do people like, oh, I love it, or is it just kind of like, just another restaurant?
No. I mean, and I can speak for the Joe's that's around the block from here, man. Every day, it doesn't matter what day of the week it is, they have a line backed up, outside of the building, all around the building. And it's not just like it's people waiting outside, but it's also, to-go orders too. They have it backed up. So yeah, it's a big thing here, man.
Does it constantly smell like where you like live, like in your house or apartment and around the block? Does it constantly smell really good?
Yeah, man. I mean, especially in my apartment, man. We do a lot of cooking here, so it always smells like some sort of meat going on here.
Do you have a smoker?
No, but here in my townhome we have an air fryer, man. So
how does that work? I'm sorry, this is
no, air fryer's great, man, and I highly recommend one for anyone out there, and not just for like air frying your meat or whatever like that, but also your vegetables. Like I do, we do like the vegetables and everything in our house, and it's amazing. We had some roasted cauliflower last night. It has a cleaner taste, and it just tastes a little bit better.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, I got to get my hands on one of those because you're not the first person who said that. All right, so we'll get towards the wrestling. I just had another question about Kansas City.
Oh, you're good, man.
So I used to live in like about 20 minutes away from Chicago, and I used to live in fear of tornadoes.
Yeah.
So I'm always thinking about places I would live other than Chicago, but they would have to not have tornadoes or hurricanes. Do you see natural disasters in Kansas City?
Well, okay. So I've lived in Kansas City probably for a total of about like 4 years now.
Okay.
Off and on, and I think there's only been tornadoes in the area maybe once. That I can really recall, and it was just in the area, so it wasn't actually in the city or anything like that. And as far as where I'm from in Texas, I'm from the Austin area, so that's the hill. Yeah, it's the hill country area, man. So there's a bunch of hills everywhere, so we really don't get tornadoes out that way too much.
Okay, I got to put that on my list then, if possible. Yeah. If I ever have to flee where I live now, that's one of the places I'll have. So you grew up in Texas. Is it like you see on television, like everyone plays football and it's like a huge big deal every week?
Yeah, it's a way of life, man. It's a way of life. High school football is just a way of life in Texas. Not only just high school football, but all the way from Pop Warner all the way up until high school and college and everything. It's just it's definitely a way of life. Some towns, it's the only thing for them to get excited for.
Sure.
Because there are those real rural towns out there who really don't have anything going on. So like football season comes around or baseball season, especially football season though. That's when the whole town comes out, and it's a huge deal.
So when I don't know what the correct term is, when you popped out of your mom or whatever the way is,
just popped on out.
Yeah, when you popped on out, was it at that point and they saw you were a boy, like you were going to play football?
No, nothing like that, man. Actually, I was I did play football growing up, but I was actually more of a basketball kid when I first started.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my first love. Even before professional wrestling, football, or anything like that came along, basketball was my first love. I picked up a basketball when I was 1 year old, and I was kind of hooked.
And who kind of got you into that at that age? Like, did you start watching basketball on TV with someone?
Yeah, I mean, I would say my grandfather. My grandfather was always around, so we always, whether it was basketball or wrestling, or football, he was always usually, in the room with me.
I always get really jealous when I hear someone say that they watch wrestling or any type of like sporting thing with their grandfather. I love my grandfather, but I'm like, that would be something like a great memory to carry with you, when they pass on and stuff. That you had that type of relationship. Did you have a big family or a small family?
Very small. So I don't really know my father's side of the family. I was raised by my mother and my grandparents. My mother has 4 brothers, and only one of them had any kids. So just very
Wow.
small family. I have no siblings, no brothers or sisters, and I have 4 cousins, and that's about as big as my family goes.
You're lucky that you were had. Okay, because it sounds like. So not having a sibling and not like a big family. What was your personality like?
Oh man, just real. As a kid, it was totally not unusual for me just to spend hours and hours alone. So I was kind of a quiet kid, quiet, shy kid growing up. I still kind of am a quiet, shy guy.
Yeah.
But
Did you
very
feel
interesting.
lonely?
Um, at times, but I always the cool thing about the cool thing about my life is I've always had a really great group of friends, and
Okay.
my friends, who I've literally been friends with since like daycare all up until present day. Um, I've just had a great group of friends, and they've always been kind of like my second family. So like I've never really looked at myself like, hey, the poor me, I don't have any brothers or sisters to
Yeah.
hang out with or anything like that, because I always had badass friends to hang out with on the side.
Totally. And you just put that energy in them.
Yeah, so I mean, and same thing with my grandfather. I didn't have a father figure growing up, but I had my
Mhm.
grandfather, and he took that position. So I never thought of it kind of as weird. It always
Mhm.
just it was just the way it was. But it definitely made me a little bit shyer growing up, and it made me a little bit more closed off compared to most kids, I'd say.
Sure. Did you were you close with your mom?
Oh yeah, yeah, very close. We're close to this day.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, so uh, did you know at what age did you know? Okay, I'm going to play football.
I would say I don't know, around the age. I don't know. It was probably around like the age like 8 or 9, because I was doing just all the like the Pop Warner stuff and everything like that. But yeah, probably the age of 9, and then slowly after that, that's kind of when my love kind of transitioned to with wrestling as well.
Sure. And were you playing? Were you on like your high school basketball team?
Yeah, high school basketball, high
Can
school
you
football.
dunk?
Well, see, I could almost dunk. I last time I tried, I could dunk a volleyball, no problem. I could
Okay,
like almost get a ball in, no, with a basketball or whatever, but volleyball, no problem.
that's
Softball, no problem.
awesome.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's having a superpower.
Yeah, man. I've always had ability to jump really high. I'm not trying to put myself over or anything like that, but I've always
Yeah.
been a pretty high jumper.
Did you work out in high school? Like, were you like conscious of having like a good body and staying in shape?
So I would work out in high school with like coaches and that kind of stuff, but
Hmm.
like it wasn't until I kind of broke off and just started doing my own thing because I knew, at a very young age, I was like, well, if I want to get into professional wrestling, I got to look like the guys on TV, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So I slowly started transitioning and doing my own thing outside of what coaches were having me do during practice and everything like
Okay.
that. So I would go to my local rec center, or when someone wasn't using like the art gym or anything like that, I use it at the high school. But
Oh,
I would just start doing my own thing, and I would just kind of learn on my own.
did so when did you like in your head decide like, okay, I'm going the pro wrestling route? How old were you at that age? Where you
Oh
like
man.
made the decision that's you're going to pursue?
I would say around the age of 10 or 11. That's when I knew like
Wow.
professional wrestling was what I wanted to do with my
Did you tell
life.
anyone this?
And yeah, I told my mom, and I told my family, and
Okay.
they all thought I was crazy. And they
Jeez.
all, and I didn't learn this till later. My mom would, now my mom's my biggest supporter. But when I first got into wrestling and stuff, she told me she thought, she was like, the whole family thought you were crazy for the longest time, and we never thought you would go through with this. You know, so yeah, man, I knew from about the age of like 11, that's what I had my heart set on. I still played sports and everything like that to stay in shape,
Yeah.
but uh, but I knew from a very, very young age where I wanted to do.
Did you have a plan?
So basically, my plan was to get through high school and everything,
Hmm.
and then after high school, I was going to start right into professional wrestling school. I was actually going to go to Killer Tim Brooks School up in
Okay.
Waxahachie, Texas. Um, so a little detour from that. After I got out of high school, it basically came down to the fact where I did more research. I did my due diligence. And one of the guys who I kind of idolized, I didn't kind of idolize, I idolized as a kid, was Mick Foley. And in his first biography, the number one thing he had as far as advice for young up and coming wrestlers was to get some sort of backup plan. Get an education.
Sure.
And so, after high school, I took a year off, kind of farted around, and then that's when I started. I never planned on going to college, but I started off in junior college and worked my way up, and eventually got a degree.
Does everybody? This just triggers me. Can you get into like a big university in Texas right away, or do you have to go to junior college first? Because I heard it's very difficult your freshman year to get in.
It can be, but for me, it was more of an expense thing. If you go to community college or junior college your first few years and knock out all those requirements classes, all your basics and everything.
Yeah,
it's a lot cheaper. So that's kind of where my head was at.
Did you ever have, like, as a child, have any dreams of going to, UT?
Oh, hell no, man. Not UT. I actually ended up going to Texas State, but I never.
Oh.
I was in Texas. I went to Texas State University, but no, dude. So part of my language, but fuck no. I never outside of high school, man. I never had any aspirations to go to school. School was the last thing on my mind.
Because you've had this, because at that point you've had a plan for like 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Like that you've been following, so you couldn't put that aside at that point.
Yeah, man. And I was never, if I'm being honest, I was never a strong student. It never going to school and getting good grades and everything like that. That wasn't a big interest to me. That wasn't a big priority. My priority was always, let's stay in shape and let's get ready to get a ring.
So after this, you took this year off between graduating. When did you start zeroing in on where you wanted to train or where they would take you?
So at first, after high school, like I said, I was planning on going to Killer Tim Brooks School. Mm-hmm. And then, after about a year or so of just kind of farting around and working and stuff and being in the real world, that's when I was like, man, I need an education. So once I got into college, I made myself a promise. I was like, because I knew going into wrestling people don't realize the kind of devotion it takes to be in the wrestling business. You gotta be devoted to this stuff, man. I mean, because not only is it going to take the wear and tear on your body, you're damaging your body long term, but also the mental psyche, and just everything that goes along with it, man.
Time.
Yes, the time, the money, the aches, the pains, the heartache, everything that goes into it, man. And you kind of got to, but you got to give it your all. So I knew going into wrestling, it's just like, if I wanted to get into wrestling, I had to give it my all. And I told myself, if I could get through college and I actually get a degree and I still wanted it that bad, I'd pursue wrestling. So that was my promise to myself. So I got through college and I was at my last semester of college and I was like, I can't take it anymore. I have to get into wrestling. And that's when I signed up and I started my first training at the Texas Wrestling Academy.
Okay. So at this point, do you think you're physically ready to handle pro wrestling training in your head?
Yes. In my head, I was physically ready, I was in the best shape of my life going into it. And I was just, at that point, I was just jonesing at the TV.
Yeah.
Waiting for it, and just counting down the days. And, once I got into it, man, it was like hit the ground running.
The night before your first day of training, were you nervous? Could you sleep? Anxious?
Oh man. So this is where it kind of gets a little sketchy. It's just a few. Okay, so like I told you, my grandparents raised me just as much as my mother did growing up. And days before I started my first day of training, my grandmother passed away. And I believe it was 2 days before I started my first day of training. So I not only was I a nervous wreck, going into it, and I'm a college kid, full-time college kid at that time. I'm broke. There's a lot of things going on in my life. I'm trying to just finish this last semester and get my degree. And that's when my grandmother, who's like a mother to me, like passed away. So I was feeling all sorts of emotions going into it, man. But the one thing I do remember specifically is pulling up to that warehouse on the first day, and it was like a sign, man, because there's just this huge rainbow just over the big warehouse building, right? And it was like, ta-da, you're where
Yeah, like
you
do
need to
this.
be. Yeah, yeah. So it's like, get ready, let's do this. So it was a nerve-wracking few days to say the least, man.
Did anyone know that you, like trainers or whoever you're training with, did they know that you, besides wanting to become a pro wrestler right away, you're also dealing, with the weight of your grandmother on you?
I told him like after the first week,
Oh,
'cause
okay.
I after the first, I didn't want to go in there and be like, hey, this and this. I
Yeah.
kind of just like I was gonna keep going and act like everything was casual. But then after the first week or two, that's when I was like, hey, just so you know, like if I'm kind of standoffish or if I'm just
Yeah.
whatever, this is what I'm dealing with, and he was totally cool with it.
That's amazing that you have that support. That was a response that you got.
Yeah.
Had you ever been on your first day? Had you ever been inside a wrestling ring prior?
One time,
Okay.
and I remember it like I was. It's funny how you asked that because I was just thinking about this a few weeks back. The first time I got in the ring, I was there visiting the school, and another former wrestler by the name of Jacob Kilgore.
Mhm.
He was there, and he was one of the top students at the time, and he invited me to the ring. And I remember that first time, just wiping my feet and taking that first step through the ropes. I just felt I was like, man, this is a cool moment. And it's one of those
Yeah.
kind of just like, it's a small moment, but it's such a big monumentous moment, in
Yeah.
your career. So yeah, man, I definitely remember the first time I stepped in the ring.
Yeah, that's your office for the most part.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
where you do your work. It's crazy, knowing the amount of wrestling fans on this planet. Millions and millions and millions, and just a fraction of them have ever been inside a wrestling ring before. Myself included. So that must have been cool the first time.
Oh man, that's
So,
very cool.
so they're having you obviously, taking bumps and running the ropes and stuff. At what point and maybe this isn't even a part of training, your character, like developing a character and cutting a promo, is that part of what the school provides?
My initial training, no, we didn't work on
Okay.
that, and that's the one thing that I know. I think they do a little bit better there, but at the time, no. More of my training was more learning the basics, learning the psychology of the in-ring stuff.
Hmm.
Character stuff and everything that was kind of secondary.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, man, I think for the most part, my training there, I learned that's where I learned my basic psychology, learned to be in great condition because there was no AC there and it's that San Antonio heat, during the
Yeah.
summer.
Geez.
Yeah, man. So as far as character development and everything, that wasn't prioritized so much in that school.
Did you, when you were 10 or 11 years old, did you have like how you wanted to look as a wrestler? Like, did you have any like daydreams about that kind of thing?
A little bit, but it's crazy how how you go from one, you think you're gonna be something, not be a certain way, and then
Yeah.
how it turns out or whatever like that, But yeah, I think as a kid or whatever, I was thinking I was gonna have this long, luscious hair, like all the time and everything like that. And I was gonna be wearing like long spandex tights and everything,
Yeah.
and that kind of look and everything. I never thought I was gonna go with like the smaller, trunks or anything like
Yeah,
that.
totally.
So yeah, yeah. So as a kid, I think on my creative wrestler, I never pictured myself. I always pictured the long, luscious hair because when I get hit, I want it to look cool. So
Totally.
yeah. So yeah, that's kind of more how I picture myself as a kid.
So, from your first day of training to your first match, how much time is in between?
Oh man, so everyone's different in how they
Hmm.
learn in the wrestling and everything. Some guys, pick it up like that, and some guys it takes a little bit longer. Guys or girls, I should say.
Uh-huh.
But dude, I don't know, man. I would say I had my first match about 2.5 months in, so fairly
Oh,
quick.
wow.
Yeah, fairly quick, man. And that just came from, I kind of took to it like a duck in water, man. Just like once I got into it.
Did your trainers like verbalize that to you that like, wow, you're really progressing,
Yeah, yes, but in their own ways. Because
Okay.
my trainer had a certain way of, he would put you over,
Uh-huh.
but at the same time keep you humble. So
Okay, yeah.
you would always kind of be guessing. You would be like, okay, I know I'm doing good because he's saying this, but am I really doing that good? So, but yeah, man, you kind of get a just comparative to all the other guys who were training
Yeah.
with me. I was taking into it and getting at it a lot quicker than the others.
Can you sense jealousy? Like, is there any?
Yeah,
Really? So is it
absolutely.
uncomfortable?
It can be, but that's this business, and you
Yeah.
gotta kind of come to terms with that real quick, because there were guys who were at the school who I was passing up as far as opportunity goes, and I was getting bigger opportunities, and they've been
Yeah.
there longer than me, and that's just unfortunately that's just how this business is.
Yeah.
But you gotta get used to that real quick, and so I got a sense of jealousy. It wasn't never anything malicious or anything like that, but it's just
Yeah.
guys more in a sense like, hey, what the hell, why am I not getting this spot?
Yeah, and if the shoe's on the other foot, you'd probably feel the same way,
Sure, and that's just how the business goes, man.
So, do you remember your first match?
Absolutely.
Were
It was
you?
a,
Did
what's
you have
up?
like jitters before you walked out?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I probably had like more of my friends in the crowd than
Oh, cool. But that's
than
cool.
yeah, no, it was great, so it was great having my friends in the crowd. I probably had like 30 to 40 friends in the crowd that night, man. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, and they took up an entire row of like seating and stuff, so it was
Let
cool.
me
But
interject for a second.
yeah.
Of those friends that came, could you easily take any of them down in a fight if it came to that?
There's a few of them that would put up a good fight, but yeah, I
Okay,
would say,
okay.
yeah.
But most of them, they pose no physical threat to you.
No,
Your
no,
friends. Okay, go on.
no,
I'm
no,
sorry.
no. But yeah, man, it was a cool feeling. I had that first match, and of course, it was with a guy by the name of Alex Rains. His
Mhm.
name he works up in Colorado now, but he helped me out a lot, in my training and stuff, and
Mhm.
he got me through my first match, and definitely there was a lot of jitters, man, because it was just like, okay, this is
Did
how it
you ever
goes.
look over and see, like, catch a glimpse of your friends or lock
Oh
eyes with any
yeah.
of them? Oh, really?
Absolutely. Oh dude, as soon as I came through the curtain, man, they were like it was like, rabid fans are and just
That's
like on their
amazing.
feet. Oh dude, it's great. Like my friends outnumbered the rest of the crowd, because it wasn't a big show by any
That's-
means. So like there's no way I couldn't have noticed them.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So at that point, you have to start like, getting yourself out there. Like, how do you've wrestled at a ton of places. How do they, at the beginning, know who you are?
So I was lucky in a sense that in my first year, my trainer he basically took me on the road.
Okay.
It
Oh,
was
wow.
it yeah. So like I'd say about the first 9 to 12 months of my career, it was
Mhm.
really just me going out from place to place with him on the road each weekend, and
Mhm.
he's getting me all these gigs, and it every time you go into a new promotion, I at least look at it like this. You go in there for the first time, and it's like you're in a interview, so to speak.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
if you do good, you go out there and you prove your worth or whatever. Hopefully, they're going to bring you back. So the way I was going through each and every one of these bookings was like almost like an interview. So I would go there, try to kick ass and do my thing, and
Mhm.
hopefully get another booking out of it and have them bring me back. But yeah, man, that was the good thing about my trainer for the first year. He took me on the road and he got me a lot of experience, and it got me a lot of opportunities.
So you've worked AEW Dark. How do you get on their radar? They're in Florida, right?
So AEW, they're based out of Jacksonville, but
Mm-hmm.
now, and I know they do like production out of like Nashville and everything like that or whatever.
Okay.
But now they're back on the road and they're doing their thing from city to city each week.
Okay. And how did you get involved?
Um, well, it just like any other form of entertainment, it's all about who you know. You know,
Okay.
and I'm fortunate enough to have friends at AEW,
Mm-hmm.
and just put in a good word for me, and basically they're the ones who got me on the radar, and what just like I was just saying, it's just like an interview process. You go there and hopefully you prove your worth, and hopefully they continue to bring you back.
Did you have nerves on your way there? Like for the
Oh
first
yeah,
time?
man.
I,
Oh
I
yeah.
imagine that must have been crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. Anytime working for a new company, especially of a company of that caliber and that
Mhm.
magnitude at that level, absolutely. But the
Is there
thing is,
any? Go on.
but I was going to say the thing is about, and I will say this about AEW is that they have such a awesome atmosphere at backstage. Like
Uh-huh.
it's such a relaxed atmosphere. There's no heat if you want to go and like talk to someone and ask questions or in any what kind of way like try to network or anything like that. As long as you're not being a jackass.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so I will say this. I've done work with WWE before, and
Mhm.
and the backstage environment compared to AEW, it's like night and day, man. So that it's a little bit nicer going into
Mhm.
that environment, and it's a lot more relaxed. You know what I mean?
Now, as a wrestling fan, as the 10-year-old kid in you, is there any part of you that's starstruck? Like when you walk in, like, oh, there's,
Um,
or is it more like this is work? Like you're going to work.
this is going to work.
Okay.
I kind of I had that mentality beat into me.
Hmm.
In my training initially the first few years is just like yeah, it's cool to be in the same locker room as guys you idolize and everything like that. But at the end of the day, you look at them as one of your peers, one of your coworkers.
Yeah.
So you want to be as professional as possible. I'd say the only person I've ever marked out meeting backstage or anything like that was Ronda Rousey.
Oh, yeah. I could see that. That would be
Oh man,
crazy.
I met Ronda and I was like, oh, like nice to meet
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Miss Rousey. That's the only person
Miss
who I was
Rossi.
really, yeah, that's the only person I've ever been like starstruck by, man.
Um, so are winning championships important to you in the overall picture? Like say when your career ends, and you have tons of championships, along the way. Is that important to you? Like at the end of the day?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how anyone can say that it's not a
Okay.
big deal because a lot of guys and girls try to play off belts like, oh, they're not a big deal and everything like that, and maybe to some people they're not, but
Okay.
to me they're more of a indication of how that company sees you.
Okay.
Are you a good representative of that company? Are you what's going to draw that company money? Are you what's going to be good for that company to maybe take it to the next level? Or
Hmm.
them investing that time to use as champion? So any title that I've ever won, I've always held it in regards to, basically saying like this company is investing this much in me, and I'm going to do everything I can to have that return for them.
The first belt that you won, did you spend more than, you don't have to give me an exact time, more than say 60 seconds posing with it in front of a mirror?
Yeah, man. I mean, any title you
That,
win is pretty cool, So
yeah.
like, but especially that first one. The first one's always very meaningful,
Did you sleep with it? I always imagine like putting on my pillow next to me, just for a night. Okay, so speaking of that, do you have like a significant other? I'm not coming on to you. I'm asking.
No, no, I do have a girlfriend, Elizabeth.
Okay. Was she is she a wrestling fan or was she a wrestling fan?
So she is a wrestling fan. Well, not like a huge wrestling fan or anything like that. But
Mhm.
she definitely she follows it.
Can she, and has she been to some of your matches, I assume?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, can you tell that she's like impressed? Like my boyfriend's huge and he's a pro wrestler. Like, does she like
Yeah.
say to you like, "Hey, thank you for being you. It's a nice
No,
part of
yeah,
my
yeah, man.
boyfriend."
She's super supportive of everything I do and everything, and
Uh-huh.
she loves going to the shows and seeing me work live and everything like that. And
Do you prefer her? Do you prefer her there, or is it a distraction?
That's not a distraction.
Okay. And does she come to most of your matches?
Whenever they're like more local and everything like that, but anytime they're, it's like a few hour drive and everything like that, and plus the thing that people don't realize is, going to a show is one thing, but then going with a wrestler to a show is another, because we got to get there, 2-3 hours before the show starts. So there's a lot of, for wrestlers, there's a lot of just downtime and waiting around, so that, sometimes that's not the most,
totally. Especially if it's hot or something.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so do you have can you at this point in your career look back and you've had tons of matches, say, oh, this was the match that I think really showcases what I can do? Is there just one, or it's a combination of many?
So one that stands in the top of my head is I had a fatal 4-way match at reality wrestling when I was the Texas champion there. Mm-hmm. And it was me, Terrell Tempo, Eric Lockhart, and Mysterious Q. Okay. And working with reality wrestling, a little backstory to me getting to reality wrestling. When I first started in my career, I believe I was about a year and a half in or so. I went with someone to go meet Booker at one of his shows, Booker T.
Okay, sure.
And basically, I went to go network and go talk to him about possibly getting a booking, Mm-hmm. He gave me his information, and then, a week or two later, I had to rent a car, because my car at the time was, so I had to rent a car to get to Houston, and, I sat around his school all night waiting to get, 5 minutes of his time. Finally, I get a few minutes of his time. He takes about a minute to see me in the ring, and he's like, "Kid, you're not ready to be on our TV yet. But if you want to come train with us, we'll get you there." Yada yada yada. So I wasn't ready, and at that time I didn't have the means to get to reality wrestling and train with them. So fast forward, 6 years later, and they're calling me in, and all of a sudden, they bring me in, and before you know it, I'm their Texas champion,
Wow.
So, and that was my first Summer of Champions, which is their huge show there. And I just remember going to that match, man. We were the opener. We killed it. We set the place on fire, and I mean that's one of my matches that I hold dear. And if anyone wants to watch some of my stuff, I'm always like, oh, I'll put that match on.
That's one. Oh wow. Yeah. Are you wearing a Kate Cunningham jersey, perchance?
No, man. I'm wearing a throwback Rodman jersey, man.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm a Bulls fan, so
me too, man.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to let you go in a minute because I have to go pick up my damn kids from school. My two mistakes. But can I ask? You don't have children, do you?
No, not. No, I just have 4 cats.
That's fine. Can I ask you 5 non-wrestling related yes or no questions?
Sure.
Okay. The first one, have you at any point in your life held or had in possession of one of the 6 Infinity Stones?
No.
Okay. Is there any type of music that makes your ears bleed figuratively?
Oh man. Jazz. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Really? I've never heard somebody verbalize that they hated jazz.
I don't know. Some jazz is okay, but a lot of jazz, I just, it'll take me out of any mood real quick.
Yeah. It's like when a dog hears a dog whistle. Okay. Number 3, for $1.1 million, would you eat panda meat?
Panda meat for how much?
1.1 million.
Oof, man.
You don't have to tell anybody.
I'll just say I don't have to tell anyone. Yes.
No. Okay. Can you touch the tip of your nose with your tongue?
No.
Okay. And finally, if you had the power of invisibility, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you my answer is yes. Would you commit any crimes if you had that power, like robbing a bank?
Oh, yeah, because nobody's going to know. Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate your honesty. Thank you. Okay, it doesn't make me feel like as much of a jerk. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on. If I didn't have kids, we'd still be talking.
Absolutely, man.
But I loved having you on. I hope that, you'll come on again in the future.
Yeah.
Just, stay healthy and stay safe, and we'll beat this pandemic soon, I hope. Are you vaccinated?
Yeah, I'm vaccinated.
Did you have any choice?
No, I had a choice.
Okay.
But it was basically, it came down to it just being responsible about it, man. Because I whenever I had COVID, I was asymptomatic. So it's just like, I don't know when I have it, So
yeah, exactly.
It's just one of those things. It's just, I just want to get this shit back to normal, man.
Yeah, like I could go kill my grandparents today, possibly,
Yeah.
But I think I'm all good. All right. Anyways, actually, I got to call the police and tell them I was just joking about that. Take care, stay well, and talk soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye.